So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. Well, today I have the privilege and the honor to present you Adam Wakegold, who has been a lot of things in the life since I've met him since this weekend, and it's amazing how many things you're doing now. But in fact, if you let me do that, I will introduce you first of all as an inventor. No, and inventors do many things. And in these inventions, he has been on lasers, he has been on quantum physics, he has been on security, and much many other things he's going to explain you, to end up in our world, or in our space of blockchain, launching a crypto called Cryptik, which its purpose goes for the security on software for companies. So, Adam, thank you very much for being in Andorra. He's from Australia and States again. And you have the floor. Thank you very much.
We're fine, Alex. Thank you very much for coming today. First of all, I want to extend my thanks to Alex for inviting me here today, and your wonderful hospitality. I love Andorra. It's a very cute, lovely place. I'm a very keen skier, so I plan to come back here again in winter. All right. First, a bit about me. I was born in America. My father used to be head of nuclear physics for the Pentagon, but he was Australian, and so I was born in America to Australian parents. And by the time I was 5, my father said, "I'm not educating my son in America." So they took me back to Australia, and I got an Australian education. Okay. As I said, he's quite a famous nuclear physicist. I ended up doing a PhD in atomic physics, specialising in X-ray lasers and things like that. Really only to annoy my dad. My dad wanted me to be a musician. And when I finished my PhD, he said, "About bloody time." Right? As I said, did my PhD in Australia. I did my postdoc at Stanford, specialising in high-power lasers and things like that. I've had, over a period of about 15 years, I did 4 different laser businesses: medical lasers, military lasers, telco I did for about 12 years actually. But as a physicist, I'm just a guy who likes to blow stuff up, right? And then I retired. I had a bit of a messy divorce. And then I retired for about 7 years, and owned a nightclub, did all sorts of crazy things. And then I bought Bitcoin in 2012, and at about $8. Okay. I remember buying a pizza in Silicon Valley for 2 Bitcoin. All right. So I bought a pizza for 2 Bitcoin. And then when I went to cash out in 2014, it turns out I had about 70–80% of my Bitcoin hacked. So this is the founding of Cryptik. Is I thought, isn't it stupid having an online digital currency that you can't safely store online? And basically, I came up with this idea of a decentralized online cloud storage. I took my idea to Accel partners in Silicon Valley, who I'd done some good deals with before, and they introduced me. They said, "We've got to get this vetted by one of the world's best security guys." So they introduced me to this guy called Raghu Kotha, and he ran security for Silicon Valley Bank, and he gets paid to hack into all the big banks in America. And he said, "Adam, this is not just for storing Bitcoin keys. This is for storing any type of file, any type of data." And he is now my co-founder and CTO. So we started the business together, normally in 2015, but really got going in 2016. So this is my first software business. All my other businesses were hardware. I didn't know how much I hated software engineers until I started up a software company. Right? They're very difficult people. I have staff in the East Coast and West Coast of America. We have staff in Estonia, Australia, and Their purpose in life is to make my life difficult, I will tell you that, all right? But so today I'm here to give you a talk about two halves. As you can see, the first half will be about blockchain technology and what I know about it. Just my opinions, but it's what I know about it. And the second half will be about a specific use case, which is Cryptik, my business. And as you can see, Cryptik is spelled, it's a cryptic way of spelling cryptic, right? So without further aplomb, so we'll talk about first the blockchain technology and the industry. First thing about blockchain is you've got to realise it's part of a triumvirate of technologies. Blockchain, AI and IoT are integrated together. They all complement each other, right? And it's all about having a more secure, more intelligent, more user-friendly internet, okay? So first of all, blockchain provides data security and integrity. And it's also very efficient at what it does for the cost, right? So that's why it's Bitcoin and things have displaced banking systems and stuff like that, because when a bank charges you $2, a Bitcoin transaction can be 0.001%. Internet of Things, IoT, it produces all this information from manufacturers and companies. And both blockchain and Internet of Things produce enormous amounts of data, right? So you need AI to analyze that data and make sense of that data, right? So basically the three of them together form the intelligent internet. And this is what you can see. They complement each other very well. Blockchain can provide AI trustless integrity. It means you don't need a third party to form verification, authentication, things like that. It's automatically verified and authenticated, right? AI allows you to analyze all that data on the blockchain. AI also allows you to analyze all the data that's produced by IoT. And again, blockchain can provide security for IoT. So the three of them are very much intertwined, okay? AI is complicated stuff. IoT is complicated stuff. Blockchain is the simpler stuff, right? As a physicist, I like simple stuff. So here's the advantages and weaknesses of blockchain. Basically all blockchain is a decentralized Excel spreadsheet. That's all it is, right? Nothing more complicated than that, right? Its number one advantage is security. This decentralization means that things are spread out, and also basically the decentralization of blockchain means that you can't attack it all at once. There's no centralized weak point, okay? No centralized single point of vulnerability. Number two, trustless integrity. You're not depending on a third party that can be bribed or whatever to verify all these things. Basically, permanent, verifiable, immutable. You know this, immutable. Immutable is an important word. It means it's permanent. Once it's there, you can't undo it. So for traceability, it's fantastic. Usability, it's very low cost compared to many other algorithm processing things, and that's simply because the fees are incentivized, and you have miners at the moment, even though I believe that mining will one day disappear, but I think the fees are so much lower than bank fees, and please understand, Bitcoin is just Bitcoin and Ethereum, they're just the first use case applications. There are many other use cases. So it's low cost data processing, transmission and storage. Now the big weakness of blockchain is scalability and latency, right? It's very slow, right, in computer terms, okay? Bitcoin used to take 20 seconds, right, to process a transaction. Now, when I send someone Bitcoin, it takes me half an hour, okay? And so it doesn't scale well, right? And basically, it's only good for small little bits of data. It's not good for storing huge bits of data, like huge files and things like that. It's only good for storing small little bits of data, like a transaction block or something like that. And you know, you've got this big access latency. It takes over 20 seconds minimum to, in any blockchain platform, to confirm and verify between all the nodes. Right? So that's the weaknesses of it. Right? So let's talk about the type of blockchain platforms out there. There's a lot of, this is how I understand blockchain. Right? I divide it into utility tokens, security tokens, and stable coins. So with utility tokens, which is pretty much 98% of what we've done so far in blockchain, it means, having utility means it actually uses the blockchain, right, as part of its fundamental purpose, right? It needs blockchain technology to work and function, all right? And the advantage of this, it's got huge potential for growth, because the more that product is used, the more that price goes up, right? Bitcoin hung around 0.001 cent to like 1 cent for like 3-4 years, right? And it was only once it hit enough customers using it for payment systems did its value start to go up, right? Now, it has no utility because it is so slow, right? It really is now a stored asset. So Bitcoin used to be a utility token. Now it's basically, you know, a stored asset like gold, right? 98%, as I said, 98% of current blockchain protocols, they claim utility, right? Okay, they claim it, but they're, pardon my French, but they're full of shit, right? The first utility application was payments. That's Bitcoin, Litecoin, things like that, right? And it was the first use case, basically faster, cheaper than bank transfers. The second one was done by a guy called Vitalik Buterin, who this man used to work for, and basically it's a currency with a smart contract on top, okay? And that smart contract puts conditions on tokens being issued or things like that. And the real use case for that was ICOs, initial coin offerings, right? And there's other ones like Stellar now that's, you know, emerging and other things like that. But Ethereum's now got a few competitors. And there's the third one is really what we're focused on, is data auditing, right? Instead of giving user privacy, we want total transparency. And if you've got a database, and remember, blockchain is just a database or an Excel spreadsheet that is permanent and immutable. Once something's happened there, once a transaction or an event has happened, you can't unerase it. It's there for everybody to see. Okay, so that's our last one, is data auditing. I think there might be 2 or 3 other ones we don't know about yet, but we'll find out. Security tokens. Well, this is sexy in the blockchain world right now. Okay, personally, it's the equivalent of selling shares in a company, right? It's just to raise capital, but it's just the only advantages of it are that it's cheaper and easier to set up, okay? But because there's no utility, the value of the security token is 100% dependent on investor sentiment, you know, and what the market views you. There's no direct relationship between how it is used, how a product is used, and the value of that token, okay? And there's no viral growth, right? You don't get the viral growth out of use, right? Simply because these security tokens do not use blockchain. It's simply a capital raising method that's supposed to undercut traditional Silicon Valley VCs, okay? And the third one, which got really trendy in the last year, is stable coins. So one of the biggest problems with consumer adoption of blockchain and cryptocurrencies is the volatility, right? Consumers don't want something that's going up and down 20% a day, right? They don't know how much it's worth. So what a stablecoin is they issue, they get investors to put in an asset, and they issue stablecoins for every dollar or euro or whatever this asset. US dollar tether is the greatest, was one of the first ones. But it can be euro, it can be gold backed, it can be silver backed. I know a few platinum backed ones as well. Even real estate backing is going to be coming in. I also think the mortgage industry is going to actually get into that. Right? So it's a way of, the one thing about stablecoins is it's basically a better way of paying for things, and it's faster, but it's also, look, if you've got gold, it's very hard. Oh, I'm going to give you a bit of gold, right? And you're going to give me this value back. No, if you can trade in gold, a gold-backed stablecoin, and you can trade every second, and it's got a lot of advantages. So stablecoins is a big application. Facebook is going to release global coin next year, and that'll be a stablecoin. I've got some insiders at Facebook. The guy I mentor actually works with Mark Zuckerberg to do the AI part of Facebook, and actually they say that Facebook's going to use global coin to verify fake news. Right? So that's going to be a great advantage. Right? Anyway, utility tokens, security tokens, stablecoins. That's how you separate the industry. Here's the problems with the blockchain industry. Most utility tokens are total scams. Right? Everybody claims to have product utility, they don't. All right? 90% have no utility, right? And 90% of the real utilities are Me Too copies of Bitcoin anyway. So if you do the numbers, there's 2,500 listed tokens, utility tokens out there. There's only 250 who have real utility, and out of them, there's only 25 that have any product differentiation between the others, right? So ultimately, out of 2,500 tokens, there's only 25 of them that are worth anything, really, in the long term, right? Also, most cryptocurrency exchanges are what they call secondary markets. They're scams too, right? There are 20,000 cryptocurrency exchanges out there, right? You only need $10,000 to build a cryptocurrency exchange, right? That's all. And most exchanges have no trading volume. Only the top 50 exchanges matter. And even out of those top 50 exchanges, half of them have fake trading volume. They have bots trading like $0.50, right, every second, just to build fake volume, right? That's all scams too. And token sales, the ICOs, initial coin offerings, right, which we did last year and this year, they've become really expensive because there are so many scams out there. It costs you so much money to stand out above the noise, right? So over 50% of all the money you raise is spent on marketing, right? It's a very inefficient way of doing it. And this is one of my biggest problems with Ethereum. The biggest use case of Ethereum is ICOs, right? I don't have much. Now the ICO boom has ended. There's not going to be many. As I said, there's 2,500 tokens out there. 25 have any product differentiation, right? And most of the good blockchain ideas have already been invented, right? There's not that many good ICO ideas left, right? And so Ethereum, it might be, what, $200 at the moment? In 2 years, I don't believe it'll be worth $1, to be honest, right? Because that's the market for Ethereum. So really the boomers in end of 2017, 2018, bear market, and the scammers and all the cons have wrecked the market a lot. Here's what I think the future trends for the industry need to do. First one, increased regulation, okay? I've had 2 public company acquisitions, I've done an IPO in Australia. I believe that we need greater transparency, better corporate governance, right? So that the scams are weeded out, right? We need improved reporting. We also need better definition of what a utility is, right? America's got it all wrong. Switzerland, they've got it right. Singapore, they're getting there, right? But every law that's made for blockchain needs to be flexible, because this industry changes every 3 months. Every 3 months, you're turned on your head, right? And the legal system really needs to be as flexible and adaptive as the industry is. I mean, if you look at America, America tests a case for a security and utility by the Howey test, which is a court case in 1948, okay? So they're using 1948 laws to judge the utilities. That's why America's way behind in crypto. I think what Singapore are trying to do, what Switzerland are trying to do, and what you guys here need to do is have a very flexible legal system that allows it to be updated every 3 or 6 months. Because I will tell you, I've been involved in blockchain for, since 2012, 2013. It just changes on its head every 3 to 6 months, all right? And there'll be a new fad, and there'll be a new way to scam things. And so the laws have to be flexible. And as I said, security token offerings are still very unproven, right? In the very early stage, nobody can tell me of a successful example of an STO, right? There's not a single one in the world. And the only ones that have been done in Singapore, right? And the only all they are is a penny stock with cheaper lower cost barriers to entry for setting it up, right? Miners will be listing on the OTC exchange in Toronto, right? And you've got more legitimacy and more governance there anyway. And the marketing costs, as I said, are still huge, right? And SGOs will be just as vulnerable to scams as utility tokens. And as an example of a utility token scam, right? We were doing our RCO at Cryptik. This is 3 months before listing, right? But we've got a very authentic team, authentic business, whatever, and we're based on ERC20 Ethereum, right? Some hackers, some scammers in China decided to sell a fake Cryptik token on the Tron network, completely different network, and they raised $2 million in 2 weeks and then just disappeared, right? And actually that whole thing was written up in Forbes. So we lost $2 million of potential investor money, and these guys pretended to be us. They even had links to our website. So we were validating them, right? And the problem with cryptocurrency investors is that they're a bunch of sheep, and they don't want to miss out. It's called hodl, 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 and they've got a fear of missing out, a FOMO, right? So they just want to get in, and the scammers take advantage of that, right? Another trend that's going to happen, everything so far has been very consumer facing, right? Payment systems, okay? Smart contracts, very consumer facing. What's about to happen is the enterprises are getting involved in this, the big guys are getting involved in this, and the applications for blockchain in enterprise are much bigger than consumer, right? But one of the key things you have to get rid of for the enterprise is mining. Mining is just a way of, it was a market penetration strategy. But you've got to get rid of all the fees and make the enterprises pay for all the servers. As I said, the other thing is major companies and banks are going to get in there. JP Morgan is about to have a coin, a stable coin. So is Facebook, Wells Fargo, Amazon, right? So the big guys are going to come in. A lot of these small guys are going to get squeezed out, and that's good for the industry. It legitimizes the industry, right? So these are the things that I think are going to happen. So anyway, that's my take on blockchain industry. Now I'll talk a bit about my company, Cryptik. So what we're building is a cloud security and storage system, a whole ecosystem, if you may. And we've basically got 3 products. We've got Vault as a decentralized cloud storage system. It's not blockchain, right? The reason it's not blockchain is because blockchain is really slow, and you don't want to wait 20 seconds to start uploading a file or downloading a file. Right? There are other companies out there, Sia, Filecoin, who store files on the blockchain. You've got to wait 20 seconds before you're even starting it up. And most of the applications now on the cloud, for cloud storage, are basically real-time applications, like live editing and things like that, and chat. So you need very fast access latency. We use the blockchain in our Sentry product. So we store files on our decentralized cloud storage, but we use the blockchain, Sentry, to make a permanent record of every single user access event, every single file sharing event. So a network administrator can track where files are shared inside and outside an enterprise. And we also have just recently launched our own Cryptik token, and it's a decentralized blockchain currency. Because Sentry is blockchain agnostic, right, and it can sit on top of any type of blockchain, we still needed a currency to actually create incentives for our community, and also have some control. Ultimately, hacking is about money. So if you create your own token economy, you have greater control over these issues. So let me talk about the problem we're trying to solve. So many of you might not know this, but for every dollar that's spent, the cloud storage industry is a $50 billion a year market. But for every dollar that's spent on cloud storage, enterprises are spending $4 on cloud security to protect that storage, right? So cyber security is now a $200 billion market. Here's the thing, it's not working because there's still going to be $1 trillion of cybercrime this year, right? So $200 billion of cyber security to protect that $50 billion of storage, still $1 trillion of losses, right? And the reasons are basically two reasons. Centralization. Cloud storage is all centralized, right? It's a single point of vulnerability, right? Once you get into Amazon, sure, they make it hard to get in, but once you're in, you've got access to thousands of files. Once you get into your bank, you've got access to thousands of millions of files, right? These major hacks are the big problem in cybersecurity. So it needs some sort of decentralization. And as I said, it also needs low latency, right? It needs less than half a second, right, to be usable. There are plenty of blockchain people trying to do file storage on the blockchain, but they have this 20-30 second latency, so they have no market, right? So blockchain is not the solution for cloud storage. The other thing is, it's a very complex problem to solve, right? There are 5 different threats to cloud security. That's external threats, major hackers, syndicates like that. There's internal threats. That's 30% of all hacks are from disloyal employees or somebody like that, just somebody you've pissed off or fired, right? You've got viral threats. You've got operational threats. Amazon Cloud Storage went down earlier this year for 6 hours. In that 6 hours, it cost their customers $2 billion in 6 hours, right? So just going down is a threat to enterprises. And there's also surveillance threats as well, right? That's a tricky thing to manage, but enterprises have to manage all of these. And currently, they spend $5 per employee for the cloud storage, for like 100 gig of storage for each employee, but they spend $50 to $60 sometimes per employee on 3 or 4 different security products to protect it all, right? And it's just not working. So it's a very patchwork approach. They have the cloud storage and they build all this cyber security on top. So we've taken a different approach. We think cloud storage and cyber security are intertwined and eternally connected. You can't have one without the other. And so what we've tried to do is build security passively into cloud storage. So this is the core product that we've invented, decentralized multi-cloud cloud storage. And what we do is, when we get a file, we encrypt that file once, and then we divide it into 5 different pieces, and then we encrypt each piece a second time. Okay, so each file is divided into 5 different pieces, doubly encrypted. So there are 6 encryption keys. And we store one of those files on Google. We store one of them on Amazon, one of them on IBM, one of them on Rackspace, one of them on Box. And we can do anything like that. And the advantage of this is it's doubly encrypted. And if Amazon gets hacked and you have a quantum computer and you break 2 levels of encryption, you still only get 1/5 of a file. Right? So it's passively secure against external hacks. All right? The nice thing about this, though, is that we've spent a couple of years developing this technology, and the key thing is it's very fast. It's got access latency less than 200 milliseconds. All right, so you can do live editing, you can do Google Docs, you can do everything you're doing in current cloud storage. In actual fact, our multi-cloud, doubly encrypted cloud storage is about the same access latency as Google, right? And because it's decentralized and it can have parallel streaming, it can have faster throughput, right? So it's good for real-time collaboration, live editing, things like that. And as I said, we store on the major cloud providers because these cloud providers, IBM, Google, iCloud, all that, they keep 200, 300 copies of everything you store all over the world, right? They'll never lose your file, right? But if they get hacked, you get hacked. And if they get hacked, 1 million people get hacked, right? And their strategy is they try and isolate it so no more than 500,000 or 1 million people get hacked at a time. They're trying to use some decentralization between them. But the key is to have decentralization between independent cloud storage providers that have no relationship to each other. So as I said, this is how it works. If a hacker penetrates Amazon or Google or IBM or whatever, they break 2 levels of encryption and they still only get a useless 1/5 of any file, right? And that makes it quantum computer resistant. If you've got a quantum computer that can number crunch and break these 2 levels of encryption very fast, you're still only actually getting 1/5 of the file, right? Our attitude is we don't try and stop the hackers getting in, we just make sure anything they steal is useless to them. Right? Secondly, viral threats. If you upload a virus to our cloud storage platform, it's divided into 5 pieces, doubly encrypted, and those pieces can't talk to each other. So viruses and malware, if you upload it, can't work. It can't work. We didn't even plan that to happen. We just, when we tested our beta, we invited a bunch of hackers. We tried to upload viruses, and one guy actually uploaded the virus and got really annoyed that he couldn't get the virus to work. So the first thing I did was employ that guy. He was a very good hacker. Right? Also, DDoS attacks and operational things. So denial of service. This is when Amazon goes down or IBM goes down. What we do is use what's called a RAID architecture. So when I said we store 1/5 of a file on each storage provider, that's not exactly true. We store 2 different 1/5 of every file, right? So what that means is that if Amazon goes down, we can still make a file up of the other 4 cloud storage providers. So if any of them goes down, we're still there. So we're much more reliable than any of the major cloud storage providers. Okay, so this is our unique thing that we do, Vault. So to Vault we add Sentry, which is blockchain auditing. We use blockchain not to store files, but to track files, have an auditable record of every user access event, every file sharing event. Okay, it allows a network administrator or if it's your file, if you're a consumer, you can say, I want to share a file with this person, right? And you can say, you can quarantine that file and say you're not allowed to share it with anybody else. Or if you do say you're allowed to share it with anybody else, you can see exactly who they shared it with, and you can see who that person then shared it with, and you can see the whole sharing history of any file that you own, right? So, yes, it's slow, it takes 20 seconds, right? But it's a forensic tool, right? And it allows you to quarantine, to control where your files go, right? And track where your weak points are. For an enterprise, as I said, 30% of all hacks are internal. So this is a big thing. This allows you to see who's the guy who leaked your IP, right? And our third product. Oh, sorry. No. This is what the customers will see. What we've got is a B2B to C business model. So our enterprise product with all the bells and whistles. Currently, enterprises, as I said, are spending $40, $50 a month on the security and the storage. Right? And it's 3 or 4 different vendors. We're the first single vendor solution that covers all the cyber security and the storage. So we're charging $25 per employee per month, okay? And you've got a full suite of features. Now, if we've got a customer who's a bank, right? They might have 10,000 employees, right? So we've got 10,000 paying customers paying $25 a month. But they've got to share what the banks are interested in is that they're going to share financial statements, PIN codes, things like that. They've never. PIN codes are still sent in the mail in America, right? So these are things that they want to use cloud storage for. And every customer of a bank or customer of an enterprise gets a free 2 gigabit storage account, okay? With some security and tracking features, just a basic version. And we think about 2 or 3% will upgrade to a pro version that allows you advanced file tracking features. So basically, adoption steps are we sell to an enterprise, and we automatically get all their retail customers as free users, and then we think 2 or 3% will become paid users. So as I said, it's a unique B2B2C business model. And notice all the prices are in US dollars. You can pay in our own tokens or you can pay in US dollars, but I think 90% are going to pay in US dollars or euros or whatever, right? And we use 10% of that US dollars, we convert back into our tokens. And we buy from the market, which actually gives real utility, because every time you get a customer, they place extra demand on the market. We have to buy from exchanges. And we basically are using our customer revenues to build our token pool for our community and drive the price up, right? And actually, in fact, this model can be used. This is almost like fake utility. We can add this to any kind of token if you use this business model, right? As long as you use revenues in fiat or US dollars or euros, and you have a percentage of them that buys back your own tokens, that is a form of utility. So here's our Cryptik token in our economy. We listed on CoinTiger Exchange about 2 months ago. We're sitting at about 10% of what we should be, right? What we expected. But until our product is out, our final product is out in about 5 or 6 months, we are like security tokens. We're subject to market sentiment, right? That's what determines our price, not customer adoption or use. So, as I said, we're oscillating between about 0.3 and 0.5 cents at the moment, and this is in our pre-release phase. So we think if you track any cryptocurrency, you've got to track it on a logarithmic scale. You cannot track it on a linear scale. Anything with utility, you've got to track it on a logarithmic scale. So we think we're going to be between 0.1 cents and 10 cents for the next 5 or 6 months until our product's released. Then once our product's released, our modelling says that it should be between 10 cents and $10. And then we'll grow it again. The more customers we get, the more our price grows. Right? So we're expecting to be in the $10 to $100 range in about a year and a half. Right? Just simply by selling to enterprise customers. Right? And for the next 6 months, we could be anything. As I said, in this space here, we could be anything, and we're not going to try and mess with it. The one thing we want, though, is we want trading volume and market liquidity. So we've got a functioning economy, right? Our issue is not price at the moment. Our issue is just liquidity. And the nice thing is we don't do any market making. We're doing 2 to 10 million tokens a day on one exchange. Our second top 30 exchange actually launches tomorrow. So our trading volume should double. But as I said, we needed to deploy our own token economy before we release our product. And our consumers, we just need the liquidity and trading volume. So you've got the Vault CTK token economy, and you've got Sentry. And that forms the basis of our whole platform. And once you've got a user-encrypted, secure cloud storage platform and your own token economy, you can set any app on top of it. So we'll have SDK, software development kits, SDKs, and API, APIs, and people can build their own platform. That's why we want to develop a community. They can build their own apps on top of our storage platform. They can build a chat platform, document editing, right? Custom play, any software platform that wants security, right? That wants cloud storage and security, and just as fast as current cloud storage, right? They can build that app on top of us. So what we want to be is we want to be the default choice for secure cloud storage. Instead of going to OneDrive, instead of going to Google, you go to all 5 of them via our platform, right? So what we are is cloud storage with security built in. And the idea is we have a Cryptik Foundation and we've got a certain amount of tokens reserved for it, and that's how we're going to pay third-party app developers like yourself to build apps on top, right? So we want to create a whole ecosystem. And I really want someone to invent a WeChat on top of our platform. If you know anything about WeChat, we could never sell this platform in China because it violates all Chinese laws, because it's all user encrypted and the government can't find out anything. But WeChat happens to be the best chat application in the world bar none, right? Best payment application. So we want someone to build a Western version of WeChat on top of our platform. So just to give you an idea about the cybersecurity industry and all the different niches in the cybersecurity industry, it's a very diverse, segmented industry. And what you can see is Cryptik covers all those things, right? And the one thing we don't do is user ID and verification. We want them as plugins, right? We want, our weak spot is the PC, right? As I said, we're protecting against large-scale hacks and things like that, and internal hacks, but our weak spot is the PC. All your encryption keys for every file are stored on your PC, right? So that's our weak spot. But for an enterprise, that's really good, because what it means is you can only hack one person at a time. If you want to hack 10,000 people in an enterprise, you need to hack 10,000 individual PCs, right? So that's kind of the philosophy. But you can see, $200 billion industry is there, right? Nobody does more than 1 or 2 things. We're doing all of those things, right? And just to show you the competitive landscape is, as I said, niche market players, people who want to store files on the blockchain and wait 20 seconds. The only application is consumer backup. There's no real market for it, so that's Filecoin and Seer. The big boys in the cloud, Amazon, Google, all that, they actually partner up with the enterprise security leaders. Most of these people are called CASBs, Cloud Access Security Brokers. And there's only about 12 CASBs in the world, and they're all billion-dollar companies. Right? So we're displacing them, plus some antivirus, plus some other stuff. We think obviously we're a small little startup. We've only got 27 people at the moment, right? But we believe that we can displace all those big guys, plus some people in the consumer security space as well. A bit about my team and me. Obviously, you just heard about me. My co-founder, Raghu Katha, white hat hacker, used to be head of security for Silicon Valley Bank. He gets paid to hack into all the big banks in America, so knows all the weaknesses. Chief architect, Dennis McMaster's, as well as being one of the best skiers I know, he's the guy who automated the New York Stock Exchange. So he's very good at platforms. We've got a friend of mine who's been with us I've been a friend of his for 20 years, Daniel Floriani. He's got a PhD in quantum computer science. He used to be head of space systems for Cisco. So every computer in space he set up. Right? Our directors, as well as me on the board, we've got 2 investors. Indra Singhal, he runs the Silicon Valley Venture Capital Fund, and I've been involved in 5 different businesses with him. He's a good friend. And our first investor was Jennifer Peng. So she's retired now, but she was the youngest executive director at Morgan Stanley in New York, and she used to be CEO of Morgan Stanley in Hong Kong at the age of 31. Right? And she's got a JD in law, so anytime I fuck up, she tells me. Right? We've got some good advisors, including Tianjia. He's the guy who brought blockchain to China. and behind Zcash and a lot of other things. Also, you might notice, my father is here, my famous father. He's a Humboldt Prize winner and very famous nuclear physicist, and ran all of research, university research for the Australian government for about 10 years. So he manages our non-profit foundation. He's also my best drinking buddy, so I like to have some good business connections with him. And right now, one of the things that happened to us when we listed, as I said, we're about 10-15% of what we think we should be. So when we listed, we basically got dumped by a lot of marketers and things like that, and we smelt opportunity. So we've been buying up our own tokens. So we spent some money. We're raising an extra $2 million via equity at the moment. So right now we've got an equity investment offer. When we listed, the foundation owned 27%, we owned 33% in the company, and the investors owned 40%. Now we own 52% and the investors own 22%, so we've got a lot of control over our economy. Costs us a bit of money, but we need a bit of extra money, and we're selling shares in the company. We have not sold any equity in this business for 2 years. So we're offering that basically the $20 million valuation, which is a very reasonable valuation, minimum investment 100 grand. And we're offering a 7% dividend. So if you notice our price forecast for our CTK, the tokens you get as your dividend might actually be worth more than your equity very soon in a year's time. So that's one of the reasons I'm traveling around the world, raising some equity. We don't want venture capital money, because venture capitalists always want preferred shares, they want to control you, they want to fire you, and things like that. We're just going for common shares. We want good investors who are going to be there for the long run. And to finish up, we're an embedded partner with IBM. IBM have given us around about $2 million of development resources already. They approached us, we didn't approach them. They came to us and said, we love what you're doing. We've been trying to build this cloud storage for banks for 7 years. We think your idea is the way to sell to banks. That's going to be our major customer base is banks. And we'll also partner up with Google and Amazon, even though their partnerships are pretty fucking useless. Right? But IBM are great. Other things that are nice to say about us, we've been awarded a top 10 cybersecurity company last year of cybersecurity startups. We're the only blockchain-related cybersecurity startup in that. And we've also been in the top 25 enterprise blockchain companies as well. So that all makes us feel a bit warm, makes us feel a bit good about ourselves. But ultimately, in 5 or 6 months, where we are in product development, 95% we finished Vault. We've launched our own token economy, CTK token economy, and we're now working on finishing Sentry in the next 5 or 6 months. And another thing, just to show you that we've actually got a real product, show you a prototype of Vault. So this is basically what Vault currently looks like. It looks just like Google Drive. It's just like Google Drive, right? You can see it's all based in America, so the access latency would normally be less than 200 milliseconds. Command Dora is 336 milliseconds at the moment. So what I can do is I can look at, let's see, I'll try and find a file. That's a bit. All right, so this is from our ICO. I click on right. Let's see, show details. So you can see this file is storage node, Google, Amazon, Rackspace, IBM. There are 4 nodes there. Right? This is one of our prototypes. We've tried 6 nodes, but this is 4 nodes. So those 4 storage nodes, that file doesn't exist anywhere as an entire file anywhere online. Okay, so I can preview that. And you see, very, very fast upload, right? So that's actually stored on our file, it's immediately uploaded, and you're looking at a file that doesn't exist as a single file anywhere on the cloud, right? It's divided into 4 different pieces. Our final product will be 5 different pieces. So it only exists in RAM, right? In the RAM access. As soon as I close that, it's disappeared. Okay. So anyway, that's basically what Cryptik's about. And any questions you have, be pleased to answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you explain please again the use of the token, because it didn't sound to me really clear what is the use actually, because when
originally, as I said, we were blockchain agnostic, okay? And originally we were going to we're going to use one blockchain for enterprise and one blockchain for consumers, because we've got this B2B business model, and we were going to use Ethereum. The problem is Ethereum said they were going to have more permission structure, and they never got around to it. But the use of the token is to create our own economy, right, and to drive the financial statements. As I said, hacking is all about finances, right, and it's about controlling our tokens, right. So even when we get fiat payments, we convert some of them into tokens. And although we're using Hyperledger now for both the consumer, we're going to use Hyperledger now for both the consumer and the enterprise version. The utility is in actual fact providing financial incentives for that. So it's also future-proof. We might go to a mining-based system as well. We might actually have applications for a mining-based system. But the key was we needed our own economy, A, to provide financial incentives, right? And B, if we were going to go on Ethereum, we've just recently decided not to, but if we were going to go on Ethereum, we needed that to actually power Ethereum, right? So, as I said, we're a utility token. If we were using Ethereum, it'd be true utility. Personally, I think we've got what's called fake utility, but it has the same effect, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just being honest, right?
The dividends and so
Yeah. So because we've decided, and it's only in the last 2 months, to go with a mining-free system, because we think mining is going to be obsolete. So we launched a CTK token when we planned on Ethereum, right? But the other benefits of having our own token is creating a community, right? And providing incentives. So when you can pay for our product in US dollars, euros, or CTK tokens. So we're going to, when we have trials and we onboard a new customer, enterprise customer, we're going to give them a whole lot of CTK tokens that then they will use to actually pay for the first 3 months free, right? And after that they have to pay for it, right? But no, you're right, as I said, 90% of utilities are scams, right? If we were based on Ethereum, right, we'd be true utility. I think what we are now is a fake utility, but we have the same characteristics of a utility, right? Interesting fact is that we're the first utility token that has filed with the SEC in America. So we actually meet all the requirements of a security under 504D of the SEC rules. So from a regulatory point of view, we tick all the boxes. But it was all about future-proofing ourselves, because we decided essentially we needed to be blockchain agnostic. And we had great belief Ethereum would produce a version that would allow some permission structure, and they have failed at that, so we've decided to go with Hyperledger. And you're right, there is some utility in this, but not full utility, right? But the way our business model is structured, it has the same effect as utility, right? So, and we do believe, basically we do use blockchain, but we just use a different blockchain now than our token is. And we've also looked at what happens if there is another public blockchain that we can switch to. And we will, if that happens, we will switch our ERC20 tokens over to that platform. We've looked at Tron even, right? But that's got a bad taste in our mouth after the scam. Right? But that explains it. Anybody else? Any questions?
You said that Vault is decentralized, right? Could you explain that piece?
Yeah, well, every file is split up into 5 different pieces. It's decentralized multi-cloud, not decentralized bank. So 1/5 of any file is stored on one cloud provider. And the key is independent cloud providers, right?
Where are they stored though?
Then they store it, they decentralize within themselves.
No, I mean, like, where do I know the index of all the keys for my,
So all your keys are on your user device, right?
on the device?
On a device. So that's our weak spot, right? Our weak spot is that if you hack into someone's device, you can get access to their files. But from an enterprise point of view, right? If you've got 10,000 employees, okay, and you want to hack into 10,000 user files, you've got to hack into 10,000 different devices, right? And we make it as hard as possible to hack into that user device.
Is that device, sorry to interrupt you, is that device the endpoint in this example?
Well, the device is your PC or your phone or whatever, yeah.
So can I migrate the data into another device?
Yes, you can, absolutely.
How does that
Right.
work?
We've got various ways of doing it.
So just to clarify, we're saying that my device creates a unique key only for that device. This is where you actually store the index of all the different files inside. Then if I want to change to another device, how do I open this?
You're allowed up to
server?
3 devices in our initial platform.
Uh-huh.
You've got to understand, it's not, every file has 6 encryption keys, all right? And when I share a file with you, I'm not sharing that file, I'm giving you access to those, I'm sharing those 6 encryption keys, all right? We will store an air-gap backup if you lose your device of all your file encryption keys, but we're also going to have a zero-knowledge solution that says, we don't store the backup, you store the backup, right? That is totally GDPR compliant. Does that make sense?
Alright, so I create an account, so
Yep.
I create a device, right?
Yep.
You make more copies of these things, and then you basically you make a copy of it, secure copy of it.
Yeah.
What's the key for that?
All your keys are on the user
my
device.
own,
Yeah,
my
it's-
own, say my own seed, for instance, right?
yeah.
Cool.
It's all on the user device. It's basically user encrypted, right? So the network, if you own that, if you create the creator of a file, you should have the right to own that file and who you share that file to, right?
And then
Okay. And all we give the power of the network administrator is user access, right? And file tracking, so the network administrator can see where the files are shared with, okay? And we needed the permission structure, not a public structure, just to have different levels of administration and control over various files.
So then when I request a file, I have to go through an API, right?
When you,
I have to go through an API. You need to be tracking me,
yeah.
so I need to go through an API,
Yeah, you can't access any of these files unless you're a Cryptik customer, right?
right?
Okay, so you need an account.
So everything goes through Cryptik.
Yeah,
That's where you get the.
that is a form of decentralization, yeah, but all the file keys are stored on each device, not on the cloud, right? Okay, the files are stored on the cloud, but each file has 6 keys that are stored on each device. If I want to share with you, I'll share my keys with you, right? The network administrator can see that I've shared my keys with you, right, for that file. So basically can identify a file. We're not offering any privacy at all for any file or any user. That's not our application. Our application is total transparency for the enterprise. And if you own that file, even if you're a consumer, if you own that file and you created that file, you have total transparency and control over who you share that file with. If you share that file with somebody outside of an enterprise, if I share my file with you, I can either say you can't share it with anybody else, or if you do share it with anybody else, I can see who you share it with, and their user ID, their Cryptik user ID is available to you.
Even if you put it on a USB stick?
That's our zero knowledge option. So instead of us keeping a backup, if you lose your computer or whatever, we will have an option that we will keep an air-gap backup of all your file encryption keys. But there's a zero knowledge option that you can keep a backup on a USB stick. Right?
Yeah, well, my question was, what happened when you download a file like on the screen?
Yeah.
You get a PDF file, you access the platform, very similar to sharefile.com.
Yeah, if I share it with
You
you,
download the file.
Yeah.
Actually, the software itself will create a copy in some of the temporary internet files. That will be a
no,
second question.
no, it is. It's a very good question. And in actual
Is it
fact,
protected, that temporary copy?
yeah, and in actual fact, in this preview file thing, we work with a company called Bankvault that actually has a lovely browser interface that keeps no metadata in our browser, right? So, yeah, we've looked at that problem, and we've got a good workaround with this Bankvault strategic partner. But bottom line is, to access any file, you need 6 encryption keys, right? I choose who I share those encryption keys with, okay?
Yeah, but if you download that file, and you attach that file to an email, and the email goes out.
No, you don't share files via an email.
I know.
You
but-
share files via our platform. You can't have access to those files unless you're a Cryptik customer with a Cryptik account. So
but
if I share a file with
that
you,
file, it won't be encrypted. That file will be open to anybody.
no.
It will be encrypted.
Yeah, everything will be encrypted, right? Basically, if I share files with you, all I'm doing is here's an invitation to accept my shared file. You have to create an account if you're not already a Cryptik customer, and then you get a copy on your computer of that file's encryption keys. All right? Okay.
So if you download that file using the
Yeah, and you can download that, and then you can share that, right? But you can also prevent download. The one thing we haven't figured out how to do yet, but we're working on, is if you've got a PDF file or whatever, you can take a print screen of it, right? It's very hard to get past that issue.
clipboard information.
Yeah, but no, we automatically delete any temporary files, right? So, as I said, if I close this, okay, if I close this,
Yeah, but how the machine can be compromised, and it retains any copy of it.
yeah, no, as I said, we use this company called Bankvault, and they've got this browser solution for banks.
You
Okay.
just deploy that software.
Yeah. Absolutely, but we've got this solution for browsers that contains no metadata, right? So when you view it,
It's like a light process.
yeah. So when you view it in our platform, there's no metadata that they can touch. There's no temporary file, right? So, and Bankvault actually is an Australian company, but they're selling this no metadata browser to banks, so you can't get hacked when you log onto your bank, right? So we're using it so we can preview the file in the browser without actually having any temporary files there.
But in order to scale up this business into an enterprise,
Yeah.
how are you going to persuade CISOs to say, look, you have to use this solution, but also you have to use these other patches like there's no metadata browser or things like that?
Yeah,
It's a
well,
difficult
currently they're
one to
using
implement.
they're using Google Drive, and then they're sticking 3, 4, 5, 6 different security platforms on top of it. Okay, very piecemeal, and they have no control over where those files are shared. They have very little information about where the data is being leaked, and as I said, we use the blockchain just as an auditing mechanism. Right? But yeah, that's a very valid question, and the answer is we partnered up with it was a weakness, and we solved that about 9 months ago with this Bankvault. I think so. They've got a great little product.
Is it an on-prem solution or is that on-premise?
On premise.
Do you offer that on-prem?
We're looking at offering, look, we're actually going to have 2 different versions. We're going to have a cloud web version, and we're going to have a client version. And the client version will be more secure than the cloud version, without a doubt, right? But in terms of backup keys, right, a lot of enterprises want us to store the backup keys, but we're going to offer a zero-knowledge solution. So each individual customer is responsible for backing up their keys on a USB drive or something like that.
But I'm saying in this industry, some of my customers, they want to comply with sovereignty, data sovereignty requirements. To have their own data.
Oh, we have data geofencing. So that's one of the biggest problems. So especially for governments, data sovereignty is big for governments. I know the Australian government used to use Amazon, and Amazon promised them that no government file would leave Australia, but they made 200 copies of it everywhere, right? So yeah, we have data geofencing solution for governments, right? Which is a different variation on this, right? I mean, bottom line is a fifth of every file is stored on 5 different cloud providers, and that 1/5 doubly encrypted file portion, right? If it's on Google or Amazon or whatever, they'll make 200-300 copies of it and store it all over the world, right? Okay, but it doesn't really matter if the only person who can actually access that is the person with the user encryption keys on their device. So what we're doing is we call it user encrypted decentralized cloud storage. So the key is all the encryption is controlled from the user device, not from the cloud engine, right? And that's why the client version will actually be more secure than the web version, right? So I mean, our attitude is we're not trying to stop hackers, right? What we're trying to do is we're trying to remove the profit from hacking, right? We're basically, and this is why we're going for the enterprise market, not the consumer market. We're trying to make sure that if they hack into anything, if they hack into any of the major cloud providers, if they hack into where the files are stored, they break 2 levels of encryption, all right? All they'll get is 1/5 of a file, right? If they want to actually hack into get the whole file, they have to hack into the user device. That's our weak spot, the user device. But the thing is, from an enterprise point of view, if your weak spot is the user device, you want to hack into 10,000 people's files, you've got to hack into 10,000 computers. Right?
So when you say that there's 6 keys, what do you mean by that?
Well, because we encrypt before we split it into 5 pieces, all right? And then we encrypt each piece. We encrypt, split into 5 pieces, then we encrypt each 5 of the
But
pieces.
each one of those are basically using the private key for the user's device private key.
Yeah, so every
there's
file.
one key for all of those, right?
No,
One key
there's,
for the 6 keys,
no, there's 6 keys for each file, right?
right?
We've got various versions where you can have 1 key to access those 6 keys
The other question would be then, where do you store those 6 keys?
on the user device.
On the user's device.
Yeah. That's it, not on the cloud. Right? Or we allow it to, you can store it on up to 3 user devices. Right?
Up to 3 users. Then you have to design that beforehand. So before I update, upload the file. And the files that are already uploaded, I cannot update. So I need to find the whole process again.
Yeah, exactly. Right? I mean, basically,
It's basically like it's a schema where you're storing all the key sets on the device.
on the device.
I understand geofencing in there.
Geofencing is a different configuration that we're just doing for governments.
But it's still on the client device, right?
Yeah, the encryption keys are still on the
So
device,
basically,
right?
we're using geofencing as part of this.
Geofencing, we have to use different cloud providers, right? We can't use the big guys for it because they can't provide geofencing, right? So we're releasing it in America first for governments and Australia, and we've already organised for different cloud storage nodes, right? That are geofenced already.
And then the cloud storage, like the provider's account is yours in this case.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, what we're doing is giving people total ownership of their files,
No, what about like, yeah.
right? And we offer
So
an
the
option
bank,
to.
it's like a bank here can
Yeah.
store, like it needs to know where it's storing all its files, even if they're
Yeah.
encrypted,
Yeah,
right? So they need to know that you're storing it exactly where.
Exactly.
And
well,
they
that's
actually sometimes
that's the
cannot
beauty of
do that.
Hyperledger. That's the beauty of Hyperledger, the permission structure. So we have different permissioned levels of administrator stuff and visibility and transparency on the blockchain. So an administrator, right, can quarantine a user just by turning off their user access, right? But it's the creator and owner of that file in the enterprise, right, that actually has access to that file. The administrator might be able to see it, right? Okay. And we have versions where an administrator gets a copy of every enterprise shared file. If I share it with you, the administrator gets a copy too of those keys, right? Because we're storing a backup of those keys anyway, right? An air gap backup of those keys. So we're not solving. We're not saying we've got a hack. We're not saying we've got a hack-proof solution. We're saying we've got a safe-to-hack solution for large-scale external hacks, for viruses, and also a solution for internal threats as well. So that's it. We've got weaknesses. but the weakness is in the user device. So we've reduced the attack surface down to one person at a time. Right? That's all we're trying to do.
But that person could also have access to all the documents.
Absolutely, if he's an administrator, absolutely.
So therefore, okay.
No, without a doubt. And
So for
Derek,
instance, right,
we've-
whoever hacks your web server,
yeah,
that's a single point of failure. The web server
yeah,
for the client,
yeah.
that will live on the client, that will be running the keys,
Mm-hmm.
that's a single point of failure.
Well, the web server doesn't. Here's the thing. What we have is what we call we've invented a thing called a photonic diode, right? Where as soon as any file, any encryption keys are changed in a dynamic system, or whether it be static, we keep a backup of all those keys, but that's air gapped off. And so data can be downloaded to our servers, but it cannot be uploaded, right? If you lose your computer, or it gets hacked or whatever, and you want a backup of all your files, you send us an email. We'll send you a link that will last 24 hours, and then you can get a backup, right? As I said, there is no such thing as a total solution against hackers. What we're trying to do is reduce the attack surface. So we were trying to remove the profit out of hacking, right? So even with the CPU, you spend hours and hours and hours, but you really only get one person. And you're exactly right. The more important you are in an enterprise, right, the more valuable your access is. And we will have various degrees of 2FA, 3FA, and things like that. In actual fact, we were talking to a guy today who, a local Andorran guy, because we've been looking at this technology for about a year, is having an NFC card as access to secure it, right? So, but we don't do here's the thing, we don't do the endpoint security. We don't do the user ID, right? We want to have plugins to Google Authenticator, LastPass, all these things, right? But this NFC card idea is actually very useful for that.
There's one last thing. What's your opinion on IPFS?
IPFS? Our system is very similar to IPFS, right? For any of you who don't know what IPFS is, it's interplanetary file system, right? And that's what it's called. And it's very similar to what we're doing, but it's very much consumer facing, right? And I think it's a good structure. I just don't think it's got much of a market, right? We're going after the enterprise market because they're the people who pay for cybersecurity, right? Consumers don't pay for cybersecurity, right? We'll offer consumer version, but the real money is in the enterprises because they're the ones who pay for the hacking, they're the ones who pay for the cybersecurity. They're the ones who are paying $4 or $5 for every dollar they spend on cloud storage. The consumers are not going to spend $4 or $5 on every dollar they spend on cloud storage. So that's the real underbelly of the market. Yep.
Are you sure you are using the utility token, not a security token? Because it looks like it's like a revenue share or something like that.
Yeah, no, as I said, I think I answered that earlier, is that in our original design, because we were going to use Ethereum, it would have been a utility token. It's only in the last 2 months we've redesigned it, that we effectively are, from a price point of view of our token, because it's like a share buyback scheme, right? But it's because we've had a redesign, because we don't believe in mining. We think mining should be obsolete.
But you're registered as a security then?
But here's the thing, we're registered as a security with the SEC in America. So it all depends on where you're at. If you're in Singapore or Hong Kong, we're a utility token. If you're in Australia, you're a utility token by how securities are. In America, we're a security, right? So it all depends on the regulation, right? And all we've done is make sure we've ticked all our boxes. So we're the only utility in Singapore and Australia that's also registered as a security in America, right? So I don't really care what they call us, right? I just don't want to get in legal trouble, right? So, and as part of that, when we did our ICO, Americans had to be accredited investors. They had to only invest in the private pre-sale, they weren't allowed in the public sale, things like that. So, and as I said, regulation struggles with this industry because it changes all the time. Right? I think Cryptik is something unique, and there's one other company that's very similar to us, and that's a company called Loyak, and they're doing enterprise logistics on the blockchain. And in actual fact, we're very much partnered up with them, and we're their biggest token holder. But
one last question from my side. Is there any benefit of using blockchain versus traditional database storage?
oh, absolutely,
From auditing
from-
and reporting forensic purposes.
yeah. No, it's simply we just use it for security auditing, file tracking, and that. And there are other things like IOTA and the like, and I've seen them, right? But they don't have the degree of decentralization that we need. We've looked at all these systems, and we found the Hyperledger platform. We spent 2-3 years trying different blockchains, non-blockchain platforms, things like that. I don't think blockchain is a solution for everything, right? Obviously, we use a multi-cloud platform because we don't believe in storing files on a blockchain. But we think Hyperledger platform is the ideal platform, especially with its very customizable permission structure, right, to install in an enterprise.
From a forensic analytical point of view, yeah, it makes sense that you storage metadata there, and who has access to that file, what has happened with that file, is being shared in between these two individuals. But that information can also be stored in a standard traditional database. Anyway.
Sorry, what?
What I mean is, I'm sorry for that. Can visualize what is the actual purpose of the blockchain in the reporting side of it.
Well, it's basically, as soon as a file is shared, as soon as someone has access to a user file, that event is stored on the blockchain, right? So from a network administrator point of view, you've got a permanent record that can't be messed with, right? File tracking, user behavior analysis. In actual fact, IBM want to actually use this is their proposal, they want to use their AI to analyse the blockchain to predict bad employee behaviour before it happens. Right? And that's their idea. But yes, no, you're right, there are a lot of other decentralised platforms out there that could do this job. Right? And we looked at IOTA for a long time. Right? Their problem is basically their performance never lived up to their claims. Right? And IOTA have been claiming they're going to displace blockchain, and they've been saying that for 3-4 years. Right? And I think IOTA would be better if we're doing a file system like IPFS, right? Okay? And I think IOTA might be a good solution if we move to a database. Right? If it was a database solution, I think that would be a good one. Right? So, no. The thing with cybersecurity is that there is no perfect solution. We're not going to get rid of hacking. As I said, we're not trying to get rid of hacking. We're not even trying to stop the hackers. We're just trying to make it as unprofitable as possible and as cost efficient for the enterprise as possible. When enterprises are spending $4 for every dollar they spend on cloud storage, they're spending on cybersecurity, and they're still losing $20 for every $4 they spend on cybersecurity. There's so many inefficiencies there. We're not going to get it perfect, but we're going to reduce basically removing the profit and basically increasing the cost effectiveness for the enterprise. And I think as a consumer solution, this doesn't have anywhere near as many benefits. That's why we're very enterprise facing. And this is why I said IPFS. I think it's a really good platform. It's very similar to ours, but it's very consumer facing. So it's hard to see where the revenues come. Right? And the revenues come from the people who are paying for all cyber security and getting hacked all the time, which are the enterprises. Any other questions? No? Time out.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to see you, and I also hope that you can discover all Andorra. And you see here that we have a good hub where
Absolutely. Smart guys. My questions.
For sure. So thank you very much to everyone for coming here, and we want to follow the after work at the cafeteria. If somebody would like, so thank you. If somebody would like to meet Adam in a private way, tomorrow he'll be here all day round.
So you can also email me. If you've got any questions or would like a copy of this presentation, I can email you. Yeah, I can't meet 1 to 3.
12 to 3. 12 to 3 cannot. Otherwise, free holds over there. Thank you very much.